but I'm gonna be real with you. It's
Mm-hmm.
I haven't
It's been a week.
done like it's always been a week for me. It's never not a week. It's always a series of trials and tribulations I go through to get through my week. But this
Mm-hmm.
week was actually pretty easy.
Oh.
Yeah, I know, right? You don't usually hear me say that. I don't usually say this week was a cakewalk. It was a cakewalk.
Hmm. Well, as long as it isn't a pie in your face walk.
Yeah, it was a cakewalk. It wasn't too bad. Honestly,
Good.
though, between working on Chrono Trigger, which has been
Mm-hmm.
my big thing I look forward to, because
That's always
that's
a good thing.
Chrono Trigger's been a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Riding the flaming bus that is Persona 5 and hoping that that doesn't end up lighting me on fire and burning me alive. That's
Occasionally pouring some more gasoline on it.
yeah, I'm just gonna like I said, I'm just gonna ride this bus until it explodes or takes me out with it. One of the fucking two. It's fine. Other than those two things, man, I don't have a lot else to speak on. I've been doing stuff on Final Fantasy X in the background. That's been taking up
Mm-hmm.
my time, but I
Yeah.
I I don't really have like a scheduled time when I'm gonna be done with all that nonsense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it could be a while before I like actually dedicate myself to finishing. That could be a problem. So it might be like 2 or 3 games before I come back and I'm like, so guys, remember Final Fantasy X? How I didn't finish it? Yeah, I didn't forget. Just everything else
It's
was
fun.
everything else was slightly more interesting for me to work on, so I just didn't work on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I didn't work on it for like the first like 2 weeks after I was like on hiatus for it. I was like, yeah, I don't want to work on it. I'm just not gonna stress about it. But now I'm working on it, and the more I work on it, the more I'm like, fuck, I might get this done sooner than I thought. Shit, this might not be that bad after all. But yeah, man, it's been
Cool.
it's been good. Also, I come to realize I have way more controllers than I thought I did on
Ah.
my desk. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's a problem. It's like I got pro controllers.
Mm-hmm.
We got PS5 controllers.
Mm-hmm.
We got an 8-bit do SNES controller
Ah.
for my SNES wannabe clone thing that I use for recording off of.
Mm-hmm.
Which honestly, playing with this is actually kind of nostalgic. I say nostalgic, but I didn't grow up with an SNES, so calling it nostalgic seems a little bit ridiculous. But
It's as close to nostalgia as
yeah,
it could be.
it's as close as I'm gonna get. As close as my Sega Genesis owning ass is ever gonna get.
Did you never play on an SNES back then?
Very rarely. It was like maybe if I went to a friend's house
Mm-hmm.
and they had one,
Ah.
but it
So you at
was
least had an occasional play, not completely
yeah,
nothing.
yeah, it
But
was
yeah,
very
but yeah,
occasional.
still obviously something different than having one yourself.
Yeah, it was very, very rare I got to play on an SNES.
Mm.
Sega Genesis was what I mostly grew up with, and then
Mm.
it was N64, which I had a love-hate relationship with, and then it was PS1, and I never got rid of the damn thing because that was like
Mm-hmm.
my favorite console of all time. I still
Mm-hmm.
have the one I got for Christmas all those years ago. That thing still fucking works.
Nice.
The CD-ROM drive is a little noisy now, though. Turns out,
Mm-hmm.
10 plus years of use. That
Yeah, but at least it still works.
Yeah, no, it
That's
works.
pretty good,
Yeah, no, it's still. I could plug it in
especially
right.
for something with a mechanical drive. Mm.
I could plug it in right now and play games
Cool.
on it, and it would work just fine. So
That's nice.
pretty dope. Anyways, that's
Mm-hmm.
all I got for you, my man. I got nothing else for you. It's all you. The world ends with
Yeah, this
the
week.
world ends with cold death.
Yeah, although that's not one of the games that I've been playing this week. I've been taking it pretty casual this week, mostly continuing with Grim Dawn and doing more with that ranged shooty mage, essentially, or shooty trapper, kinda, which is still quite fun. And it's always nice to have a game that lets you do just freeform things like that, and then just gives you more and more stuff on top. Because at some point, I also found an amulet that gave me an additional pet as a summon. Essentially, items can give you additional skills. Depends on the item. Some give you additional stuff like you have a percentage chance of shooting a fireball when you attack, or something triggers when you get attacked, or you have on-call skills like summoning a pet or other special attacks, which is, yeah, it's quite nice to have the flexibility.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, since I don't really focus on pet stuff, I don't have many bonuses on the items, so it can't endure for long once I summon it, but it gives me enough of a distraction for the enemies so that I can lay out enough traps and, yeah, just wreak havoc on the enemies with my dual pistol skills.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty fun. Currently at around level 25 or something like that, and still a few levels until I reach the requirement for legendary items to appear.
Ah.
It's also nice, it scales that up, like, but it's thankfully it's not like the release date of Diablo 3 where you had nothing and then just slowly got trickles of additional stuff. Here you also already get variations of rare items, magic items, and what was the other thing? Because it's two different. It's green items. I'm not sure. I think maybe it might have been uncommon, rare, and magical, something like that. So it's
Okay.
the white common ones, and there's the yellow ones, then there's the green ones, and then there's blue.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably common, uncommon, rare, and magical.
Yeah.
And then the legendaries are, I think, the usual orange. Yeah. That's been going on, and besides that, haven't been playing much. I've also, what you wrote in the chat, I've been following the AMD stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Very. It's
Yes.
gonna be very interesting to see just how well these new cards end up performing against their NVIDIA counterparts, given the fact that they have a pretty decent price difference between.
Very decent price.
Yeah, so if the performance can be there as well, along with that better price ratio.
Yep.
Ooh, you might be in for it now, NVIDIA. It might. The battle might.
If the extrapolation that one site made holds up in the reviews, then it's definitely going to be great.
Yeah.
It's going to be around a 10% range, close to the 4090. So a bit slower, but still close enough.
Yeah.
Which definitely is, with that price difference.
Yeah.
About a 60% price difference.
The 7900
7900 XT
is at $99.99, and that's supposed to be competing along.
$9.99.
That's competing.
Not $99.99.
Yeah,
$9.99.
That's
that would be a card.
Yeah, that's competing. Is that competing with the 4090 or the 3080 or the 4080? So theoretically,
AMD says it's competing with the 4080, which price range wise that would make sense. They don't have a better card yet, but they say officially it's against the 4080, which it would beat handily if those reviews hold up what has been predicted. That's going to be interesting anyway.
Yeah.
And especially with for one the price, and for the other the size and the power consumption that they said, which is yeah,
The,
is yeah, quite likely will make me turn Team Red.
I'd at least consider it.
Mm-hmm.
I would at least like partly
Yeah.
consider it. It would. I don't know if I would make that turn. I don't know if I would
Mm-hmm.
make the swap, but if AMD can offer something competitive, like
Mm-hmm.
really competitive,
Mm-hmm.
the only thing I have my concern with
Mm-hmm.
me making the switch is that because I'm a content creator, InVync is a
Mm-hmm.
really big part of my workflow as far as like recording and rendering.
Mm-hmm.
Like I rely a lot
Sure.
on the InVync encoder and InVync
Mm-hmm.
encoder when it comes to that. So I don't necessarily know if AMD has anything
I mean, they do
comparable.
have their own recording stuff in there, and they did announce that they will support AV1 with that card.
That's see that changes a lot for me
Mm-hmm.
then, because AV1 is like super duper.
Massively better than what's
Yeah,
before.
yeah. It's I've been
Yeah.
keeping an eye on that due to
Yep.
like other YouTubers like Epos Vox. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
Mm-hmm.
He's the stream professor as he calls himself.
I see.
And he's
Mm-hmm.
been covering a lot of AV1. The more I see of it, the more I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
damn. So
Yeah.
if
I've seen a preview of Twitch using that, because I'm not sure if they've rolled it out completely yet. I think it's in the preview stages for them currently, but they've said they are going to support it. Either they already do or they will soon. And that looked like a significant upgrade,
yeah,
because it's with the same bitrate, it looks a lot better.
yeah,
And it also gives you the possibility of higher frame rates.
yeah. So that's
Mm.
definitely, and it's also if
Yeah.
AMD can compete better on price in
Mm-hmm.
general, then
Yep.
I want to see.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see what they're
I mean,
like.
imagine this is the price their currently top of the line cards have. Now imagine what the other cards will have as a
Yeah,
price.
right. If we're setting it where we're setting it
Mm-hmm.
right now, top of the line, then ooh boy,
Yep.
and
The others are only gonna be down in price.
Nvidia is really gonna have to.
Mm.
I mean, I don't think there's much they could do with the 40 series now, like price wise. Like the 40
Yeah,
series,
they'll
the 40
have
series.
to go down in price to
Yeah, they're
make
either
that difference.
yeah they're gonna either have to go down in price or just assume that people are gonna be so dug in with Nvidia
Mhm.
that they'll just buy into it, and then next generation of cards they
Mhm.
adjust for whatever AMD might be planning. Those are
Mhm.
like your only two options.
Which is likely what they'll do, because I mean, we've seen with the 4090, it's despite the price, it made good sales. So I think they'll probably stick with that for now.
I think that
And
like
then,
I think
yeah.
for all that it's worth, all right?
Mhm.
For all that it's worth, as much as we like to dunk on that fucking thing being $1,600, the actual performance metrics that thing can put out is nothing to
It
sneeze
is
at.
definitely good.
It's-
Yeah, definitely.
It's nothing to
Definitely.
sneeze
It's
at.
just,
I don't.
yeah. I mean, if you'd sneeze at it, it'd probably just crash and burn the case. So you don't want that.
Yeah. So
But
I
the interesting thing is also that someone tested out limiting the power that the card uses. And it still had a really good performance. It was, I think, 10% slower or something like that when they limited it to, I think, 100 watts less.
Oh wow!
To 350 instead of 450.
100 watts less,
Mhm.
and only hit like a 10% loss.
I think something like that. I'm not completely
Oof,
sure
fuck
on how
me.
much it was, but it wasn't that much.
Fuck me.
If that's the change, then the card is running extremely inefficiently in the higher power consumption rate.
That makes me wonder.
That makes me kind of think why Nvidia did that.
Why would you give? I mean, let's get stupid.
Unless they knew the power the RDNA 3 cards will have, unless they had some data on that. and they said, "Fuck, we have to push our card higher than that." Maybe.
Like a preemptive, like they were like, "Oh, our DNA is gonna be pulling some like crazy shit, so we need to like push this card as far as fucking possible. Crank up,
Maybe. Crack it up as high as we can. Yeah.
Crank it up to 12."
I mean, I don't know what the real reason is. Obviously, it's just pure speculation.
But like,
It
let's
really seems weird.
let's speculate and just like let's get like fucking stupid for a second. Like let's get like fucking stupid and assume and say that like they chopped off 100 watts and they saw at worst like 15% performance loss. Like let's get fucking dumb, all right? 15%.
Yeah.
I mean, even at 15% performance loss, are you really?
That's still great for that card. What I've seen of the benchmarks, that's still a massive.
Yeah, that's still
a massive performance.
Like even at 15%.
Maybe because they set the price to that level because the cost of the card itself is so high. Maybe the process of the monolithic process that they have instead of the chiplet design that AMD now uses, that can save them the money. Maybe that forced them to do it so that they have the performance for the price range they need to set.
AMD is getting their money's worth out of the chiplet design. They've been
first with Ryzen, and
yeah,
now with
they've
this.
Like I'm gonna give. I mean, obviously, if you have a manufacturing process, right, like that, and you use it with your processors and it works, you've perfected it. I assume that at this point they've perfected it. You know,
it's been several generations of Ryzens now that have been using it.
I would assume
it's tried and true.
Yeah, I would assume after like 2 generations, you've basically perfected the shit. That's my assumption, right? Like
and we're now several generations into the Ryzen. So
so like they're getting their money's worth, which is good. Like, and I think if we've seen generation over generation performance wise with Ryzen just in general. So
yeah. And that's not even the big advantage of the chiplet design. The main advantage there is cost and power consumption. Because you can use the cheap tech for the memory and for the memory interface and the cache.
Right.
And use the costly one for where it counts with the main GPU core.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yep. That's if they wouldn't have done that, they would have never reached the price that they have now. That would have been definitely much higher, at least 20% probably. At least.
That's still insane to imagine that like they could Nvidia that like people could like underclock that fucking card 10 to 15%, and that thing still is outperforming.
It's not even underclocking it 10 to 15%. It's
under
limiting the power consumption.
Oh, they're not. Is it?
Yeah, probably something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's essentially you can give the card a power limit and it adjusts itself automatically, or depending on that. So yeah, it's kind of underclocking it, but it's internally it's probably doing a combination of clocking and voltage, I'm guessing.
Well, since we're on a tech-based tear at the moment, let's talk about another piece of tech that got revealed in a few different ways, and that is the PSVR 2. Had some details dropped, and I have feelings about this. You had some initial feelings about this, and I want to talk about it. So they dropped some information about the PSVR 2, and then they also said that they also dropped the price. But I'm gonna get to that. We're gonna get to the price because that's
they didn't drop the price.
Yeah, to say the least. So a couple of things I want to note. For one,
Mhm.
that this thing is not backwards compatible with
Yep.
previous
Yeah,
PSVR games, and
that's
I
been
think
announced several weeks before, but yeah, that's I don't know.
I think
That
I
decision just seems weird.
I feel like that. See, okay, so my thoughts on VR are a little bit
Mhm.
weird, right? So I
Mhm.
don't necessarily see issues with like VR
Mhm.
tech being expensive to some degree, right? Because I get the tech,
Naturally,
I get that, right? The difference is that
has to be. It's a niche product still.
when I think about VR tech, and it's usually like
Mhm.
on PC, you're not usually limited so much as where you can use, like, how do I, like, platform,
Mhm.
right? PC is a massive platform, right? So
Yeah.
like, as far as I know, you could use the most of these VR headsets for PC. You can use them
Mhm.
across whatever piece of software on PC that you want to use it, right? Like, you're not limited in that regard, are you? Necessarily?
Usually not. I think there are a few exclusive games that are limited
Okay,
to
so
certain headsets, but most of them, yeah, you're relatively free.
okay,
Yep.
so
Mhm.
again, that's a big part of where I
Mhm.
kind of start to fall in that skeptic category for this
Mhm.
piece of hardware, because it's a Sony device
Mhm.
exclusively for their new console, right?
Yeah.
It's used exclusively with the PS5. No matter how
Yeah.
powerful that thing is, fine, cool.
Mhm.
Which then brings me to that thing I skipped when we started this story, which was the price.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I want to make sure I get this right because I don't
Mhm.
want to misquote it here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're
I think it
paying
was
five hundred
599.
fifty dollars for the PS
550.
for the
Mm.
PSVR
Uh-huh.
2. $550. Now, I said in
Mhm.
our Discord, CD, that depending on how powerful this hardware is in it, right? Like,
Mhm.
just how powerful this thing is, I might, and I mean might, be able to be
Mhm.
like, you know what?
Mhm.
Okay, you're getting a fairly powerful device that will probably last the entirety of this console generation, five,
Well, I mean,
six.
you can't really say powerful in terms of this because it's essentially a display device. It's
So,
not exactly. Doesn't have a processor on its own and all.
oh, it doesn't. I
No,
assumed VR devices did,
that's
though, don't they? Don't they usually have?
not. No, most of them don't. It's only the ones that are standalone, like the Oculus Quest, that you don't have to connect to
Oh,
the PC. It's
okay.
only those that have hardware in them.
So, like, the controllers
Pretty much
probably have.
all. eh, the controllers have some basic stuff in them, but
So, okay.
hardware in terms of CPU, computing stuff, and all that's all done on the PC or on the console, depending.
Okay. So,
Mm-hmm.
riddle me this, Batman.
Uh-huh. Yes.
What are you paying five? My assumption was
I
that you
can.
were paying
I'm.
for
No,
like.
no. I can pretty much tell you where the money is going. See, this one has two panels in there that are each 2000 times 2040 pixels.
Oh.
Yep. So it's
Oh.
essentially two very small 4K screens, or almost not quite 4K. It's the width is about half, and the height is almost a 4K. So it's essentially one big. It's essentially two halves of a 4K display, but in extremely tiny. And it has an up to 120 hertz
Hmm.
refresh rate. That's for one. And that's gonna be costly because it's also an OLED display.
Oh. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So that I could
That's
definitely see the cost starting to add up.
yep. That's gonna be a significant part of the cost. It also has obviously motion sensors, as most have, and there's 4 cameras in there. in the
Oh, yeah.
headset.
Yeah, I see it. I can.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
It has them for the headset and controller tracking and an IR camera for eye tracking, one per eye. So, yeah. And it has vibration on the headset. So that's also a bit of hardware there, although that's probably not that costly, obviously.
Okay.
But yeah,
So,
yeah, all of that for a bit under 600 grams in weight. Yeah, that's gonna add up in cost.
fine. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. You know what? Fine. You justified the cost of the device. I understand now why the device would
Mm-hmm.
cost what it would. I still I mean, one of the things that the Tech Raptor article does sort of point out,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to has pointed out, they're like, "You're telling me this VR thing costs more than the fucking console I bought it on?"
Yeah, that's obviously a slight disconnect there, but then again, you have to count that there's only a small fraction of people in comparison to a
Oh,
PS5 that are gonna buy this.
yeah, this is not. This is not a.
It's not a mainstream product.
This
Definitely
is.
not.
This is.
Might
This,
be more mainstream than many headsets due to the Sony connection to the hardware.
this is a roll. This is a Rolls
Yeah.
Royce of product. This isn't something that.
Mm-hmm.
This
Yeah.
is something your
Yeah, pretty
average.
much.
This isn't something your average player
This
is
isn't the
gonna pick up.
Prius.
Yeah, your average person isn't paying
Uh-uh.
this. Isn't paying for this. This is.
No.
This,
Heck, your average person is also not necessarily getting a PS5, so there's that as well.
Thank you for calling. Thank you for not calling me average, CD. That's rather nice of you. I appreciate that compliment. That's so nice.
I wonder, was that a straight compliment or was that a backhanded compliment?
You know what? I'm not asking questions. I'm just taking it.
Mm,
I'm just gonna.
you're just taking it.
Yeah,
All right then.
I'm just gonna
That's
just gonna
fine.
take it at face value and just
All right.
fly off with it. That's mine now. I'm putting that in my pocket. I own that now.
All right then.
Um,
Yeah, but it's definitely a Rolls Royce, but with hardly anything to do with so far.
yeah, and that's
Not gonna be that many games on launch. I think
And
about 20 maybe.
and that's
Something like that.
kind of the problem. Like, I mean, that's the
Mm-hmm.
problem with any piece of hardware, but the problem with it being on a console, so to speak, is that unlike PC where there can be homebrew kind of things and like
Mhm.
community made
that's-
software and other ways to use the device, when you're stuck on
Mhm.
something like a console like Sony, your device
You have one storefront where you can get the stuff, and that's it.
your device lives and dies by the software
Mhm.
and by just how much volume of software and how good that software turns out to be. So
Mm-hmm.
elsewise you're stuck with a $550 space taker.
Mhm. People wait.
Yeah,
Yeah.
closet stuffer,
I
if you
really
will.
have to wonder what exactly is the thing that caused them to say, okay, we can't have this one backwards compatible. I mean, the controllers are very different on this one, I suppose, because it's not the PS Move controllers anymore, thankfully.
Yeah, but you
It's-
could software
Hmm.
update like software to make it work, right? To like have it.
Yeah, I think I think many VR game developers are probably gonna update their games to have a PSVR 2 mode or a version of it.
Can they?
I'm guessing.
This thing isn't.
I wouldn't be
this
surprised
this
if
thing.
they could.
They said this wasn't compatible, so I assume that Sony's doing
Yeah.
something to stop it from being compatible, right?
Yeah, but you can still you can have the game in the development environment that you have, and then make a build for PSVR 2.
Ah, okay, yeah.
and do whatever changes are necessary to make it compatible, like potentially the controller updating, or maybe the camera handling, because the PSVR 1 only had the external camera. That might be a reason for that. For
Yeah.
example, that this one only has the internal cameras and they handle differently, so you can't use certain features with this one now. But games that don't use those features anyway might have an easier time updating to make them compatible with PSVR 2.
Ah.
That's probably the biggest reasons the camera and the controllers
You see,
would be
now
my
I
guess.
want to know though, right?
Mhm.
Because VR is already a niche fucking product.
Yes.
So
definitely.
I kind of want to know, like, how does
Mhm.
like Sony has to have a pretty strong incentive to encourage devs to even want to develop a VR product. They must be incentivizing them pretty fucking good. There's got to be incentive
Probably.
because, like, okay, let's get fucking dumb for a second here, CD. Like, really brain dead here, right? What do you like percentage wise of people who own a PS5? What do you think? 10% will buy this?
At most.
10%? Like
at most.
Maybe we
I'd say more I'd say likely less.
Like maybe we get really dumb and we get really dumb and assume that like a killer piece of software is announced before this thing drops and we go to like 15. Like really killer piece of software that everyone wants to get their hands on. We go to like 15%. At 550? Like what's the
Let's see. What did the first VR headset sell? Yeah,
like get stupid. Really dumb. I need you to really
I don't think you're gonna get that high numbers.
Ooh, we're talking like what?
The first one overall sold. Well, this was as of January 2020, it was 5 million.
Ooh.
Which isn't too bad for a VR headset.
5 million. So what? We're talking like a pretty low percentage of PS players actually bought the first PSVR.
Well, if you compare with the PS4, it's definitely a very low percentage because that one sold, I think, over 100 million.
Oh, so we're talking like probably like a percent, like 1%, 1%, 1 or 2%.
117 million PS4s sold.
Ooh.
So we're at around. Yeah, that would be. Oh, we're at 1%. That would be a 5% overall for PS4 comparison.
Oh yeah, no, we're not
If
getting.
it's the 5. If it's still the 5, then.
Well, we're not getting 10%. That's a fucking pipe. That's a fucking pipe dream. Yeah, I take it back. Me being dumb says 5%, but
5% of that, but if we, but I think the PS5 only has sold around, I think 5 million. No, not 5. Go now, not 5. 20, around 20. Let's see, what is it currently? What's the?
I don't know what the current numbers, but I know Sony's been
in June it was 20 million.
Oh,
so it might be around 25 currently,
25.
maybe at most.
Oh,
I think somewhere in between 20 and 25 currently.
Oh, so we're talking like a percent, like 1%. Like at 550, when this thing costs 500.
Yeah, not 1% because that would be only 0.2 million. I'd say
I don't even know if it'll sell. I just don't have a lot of at that price.
That's a good question. Currently, it's a difficult market currently. So yeah, it's definitely probably not gonna sell much unless the whole market relaxes a bit.
Yeah,
I don't see that happening in the next few months.
Unless the market relaxes, or a piece of software that's so
Mm-hmm.
fantastically
Yeah.
awesome gets announced, that people go out in droves to
Yeah.
buy this fucking thing.
I don't know, although, as we said before, the 4090 sold quite well, so
Ah, damn.
it might sell
Yeah.
better than we expect. It might sell better than we expect, but I, I'm not sure. It's probably not gonna reach the numbers of the PSVR 1, obviously, since the install base of the
Yeah.
PS5 is so much lower.
Yeah, we're
So,
2 years in. That install base is
mhm.
like I
Yeah,
now
it's 21, 22 million, something like that.
yeah.
As of end of July, it was around 21 million. So might be 24, 25, something around that, maybe.
And I saw a recent thing from Sony on Twitter that said
Mm-hmm.
that from someone I follow, they're a news aggregate, and Sony had mentioned that despite the price raising in other regions,
Mm-hmm.
it hasn't slowed down sales.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Mm-hmm. So it might it might sell better than expected because the people that have the PS5 now are possibly the ones that are more likely to get something like the VR2. The people that already have the PS5, because they were the ones that also got it at a higher price, oftentimes due to the scalping and all. So those people might be the ones that have the disposable income that they and the plan already to get the VR2. So we might be getting better numbers than expected, potentially.
I look forward to it. No, I really do
Mm-hmm.
want.
It's gonna be interesting to watch the whole thing. Yeah, definitely.
I look forward to it.
Uh-huh.
Also look forward to CD.
Mm.
We're gonna take ourselves a small break. Everybody, we'll be right back with our next story. All right, everybody, and we're back from that break. Not gonna lie, first time I ever had to do one of those, but I was starving and I gotta eat. So we took a small break, cooled off a little bit, and we're back with some more. We're gonna talk about our favorite conglomerate, the massive gelatinous ooze that just absorbs everything into it. It's an unstoppable mass.
The tiny gelatinous cube.
Oh, it was tiny. It was a tiny gelatinous cube. It's not so tiny anymore. Don't know if you've ever...
people people continue to wander into the dungeon, and suddenly it was just well, hmm. It was the dungeon at some point then.
about to say it was a gelatinous cube, but now the dungeon's just gone. Now it's just a gelatinous mass. Embracer
The
Studios.
cube just slightly bigger.
Yeah. Size of a city block. I'm sure you've seen what, the Blob? Yeah. Either one of the Blob's multiple incarnations. Yeah, that's what it became.
Imagine that as the cube.
Right. Embracer shuts down Onoma after rebranding weeks ago. They
Yeah,
shut.
that was a Square Enix Montreal. That was rebranded to Onoma because obviously the name Square Enix kinda a problem there.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. You can't really keep the name at that point. They had previously worked on Tomb Raider Reloaded and the Go line of mobile games, including Lara Croft Go, Deus Ex Go. After acquiring the studio a few months ago and rebranding it entirely, they have shut it down with very little information as to why. I mean, I could probably speculate as to why they shut it down. They probably looked at like a lot of these they probably looked at these acquisitions or this acquisition in general and was like, we don't really know what we could use you guys for. Because
That's probably because especially the mobile part. I don't
Yeah.
know if they would use those that much, but they probably looked at the projects they have going on and decided, okay, we have some other projects here that we could use more people for, and then take those off there and close this part down.
Yeah, because that's the thing that's
Makes it more
missing.
manageable.
That's the thing that's missing,
Hmm.
right? They said that they closed
Hmm.
it down, but I don't know if they just got rid of the people. They might have just closed down the
Um,
studio and took the people and put them somewhere else, like you said. There's a difference.
says in the article, some of them would be transferred to Eidos Montreal, which was
Ah.
the sister company that was also acquisitioned at that same move. But how many people got let go and how many people got transferred, I'm not sure. Not sure if they say that, but
Part of the
yeah.
article also says some speculate the obvious spending cuts throughout the past year. Sweden based Embracer has been acquiring both large scale and small scale companies left and right, and it is believed that the sudden change of plans with this studio was a casualty in the cost and cutting costs and keeping their overspending at bay.
Yeah, it might be.
That's a fair bit of speculation. I don't think that's
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that's an unreasonable notion
Maybe
to
it
have.
was like maybe it was partly that they were more interested in Eidos Montreal, where in terms of acquiring them and the IPs, obviously. And then they said, okay, we're gonna have to take this studio as well, but we're gonna only keep the parts that we really need.
That I
Maybe
mean,
that
yeah,
was
that
in the plan from the beginning.
yeah, that makes sense. But it also strikes me like then
Hmm.
why bother renaming it?
I mean, they probably had to, and
Yeah, okay, yeah.
deciding on who to let go and what to take and what to not continue with and all. That probably also took some organizational time. Probably just the renaming is not that big of a deal in
Yeah.
terms of effort. So they just did that. That's probably also why the name isn't all that
Eye catching, appealing.
I don't know. Yeah, it's I don't know. Onima. I I mean, it might be something specific to that region. I don't know who came up with the name, but it might be just they took a dart and threw it somewhere and then said, "Ah, Onima. Okay, let's do that. It's gonna be gone in a few weeks anyway."
Right. It's not this isn't this
Maybe.
yeah, this
Pure
isn't
speculation, obviously,
yeah,
but yeah.
obviously. We don't know. I don't work for them. I don't fucking know.
I
Uh
mean, at this point, we probably wouldn't be working for them anyway.
yeah. Yeah. That too. You know what? Screw it. I'll mention this
Hmm.
one. It's also on the list.
Hmm.
Sims 5 hacked and
Hmm.
pirated due to playtesting.
Hmm. Yeah, The Sims 5 that has been, well, kind of announced, but not much of it has been announced. That just that they are working on it. And I'm not sure if it even has been called Sims 5 there. Just the next Sims is being worked on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, obviously, yeah. The usual leaking stuff and all is continuing.
I'm not surprised,
Hmm.
but I don't know, man. The Sims, like the thing about like the Sims, right? Because the like
Hmm.
Sims 4 was like that first time I ever really had my eyes open to just like how much you can
Hmm.
nickel and dime a player. It wasn't until Sims 4, because like I
Hmm.
had always
Yep.
heard people mention that kind of shit, but I had never really taken it all that seriously. Because I'm like, well, you picking bad games to play,
I mean,
right?
I didn't even make it that badly in Sims 3 yet, I think. Or at least not in that extreme.
It was Sims
But
4.
obviously they had quite a few in Sims 3 as well, but it was not as many by far.
Sims 4 was when I
Mm-hmm.
and I'll tell you
Yeah.
I'll tell you how, like
Mm-hmm.
why I came to that realization. So a friend of mine
Mm-hmm.
was a streamer, and she was
Mhm.
on this. I forget what it's called. It was like an EA thing. Like they had a program for streamers. I forget what it's called. It was
Mhm.
like something some EA associated thing, and she would stream like Sims. And during
Mhm.
one of her streams, she was like, "Man, I wish this game had this."
Mhm.
Right? And then she looks it up and goes, "Fuck, they do
Oh, it
have
does.
it. Fuck, it's also like
Uh-huh.
$30. Fuck,
Mhm.
god damn it."
Yeah, they have a lot of differently priced DLC add-ons. And 30 is, I think, the higher tier.
Yeah, because like that was like that was like the moment when I started to realize
Mhm.
like, oh wow, you really can monetize basically selling people back features and like
Mhm. I mean, selling them back features depends because I mean, yeah, they have made that with Sims 3, but then you still have to implement that again. So it's not exactly, yeah, you have it in one game and then you can
right.
expect it in the other. That's obviously also a problem with all games that become massive in their development with additional DLC and all.
And this is nothing if not massive. I'm counting at least
Mm-hmm.
4 actual
Steam
expansion.
has 60 overall DLCs,
Yeah,
but
and at
59.
least 4 of
Yeah.
those are named expansion
Uh-huh.
packs. Like
Yeah.
so. So yeah.
Yeah, and they're $40 for us at least.
So like it was Sims 4 that made me look at this stuff a little
Mm-hmm.
more and go, "Damn."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, although that's still child's play in comparison to Train Simulator.
Yeah.
In
Yeah, you're right.
terms of the amount. It's not really nickel and diming there. It's understandable why they do it, and how they do it is pretty good
Yeah. Yeah.
comparison.
And that's the thing. Train Simulator does actually have like if you look at it without context, it
Mm-hmm.
looks bad. But when you have the
It looks
context,
extreme.
yeah, but when you actually have the context behind it, then it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. Fair. I
Mm-hmm.
get it.
Yeah, and especially if you consider when the original game was released and how long updates for that game have been released, and it's just continuing support for that, and new versions of the game oftentimes have been out for free.
Yeah.
So like the yearly versions that you usually have with sports games and all, you have just Train Simulator 2012, 2013, 2014, stuff like that. And yeah, most of the time you get those for free.
Damn, that's a pretty customer friendly
Mm-hmm.
method.
Yeah.
And they make money, right? They're able
Yeah,
they
I
make
mean,
money, right?
that's why there's so much DLC,
Huh.
because they
Oh,
that's how they make the money.
so it is
It's an
sustainable.
intelligent way to do it.
It's just
I mean, Train Simulator has been around since, let me have a look. Well, Train Simulator Classic has been around since around 2009. And I think that wasn't the first one they had made. But yeah,
ah,
the Train Simulator Classic version has been around since then, and they're still releasing update DLC for that. By now, there's also a separate Train Simulator version that's let me check. They have a sort of replacement for that, but you don't really have to get that one. This one is still quite fine.
oh, well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, I didn't read this next one, but you
Mm-hmm.
listed it, so I assume there was things.
Which one would that be?
Final Fantasy 16. You
Ah,
listed it,
yes.
so I assumed there
Mm-hmm.
were things in it that
Yeah.
caught your
Mm-hmm.
eye, because it's a pretty beefy piece of literature here that's here.
Yeah, it was mainly because of one thing that journals have been drumming drama about.
Oh, I think I know where this is going. I think I know where
Yeah,
this is going.
pretty sure you know.
Yeah, okay.
Because one of the questions, you see the title, where how it ends with "and representation."
Ah, of course.
Yeah, IGN asked them about representation and if they could expect black characters and other people of color in general in the game in terms of diversity and all, because the trailers so far have featured mostly white characters,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted to have clarification on that, obviously with no other intent behind it.
Obviously,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
purely just because I want to know, not because not because they have a
Yeah.
motive. Obviously, there's no motive here.
Nah.
Nope, not
Nah.
one, not even.
Nah. And they've essentially answered, Naoki Yoshida, so I think that's Yoshi P, just pretty much answered that they're basing the design and all on heavily on medieval Europe and making the whole thing pretty isolated, which is the reason why they are mainly incorporating white people in this. There's going to be some diversity from what I've read in the reply, but it's not going to be as pretty much a USA diversity, stuff like that. It's going to be mainly white people because of that. And yeah, the response to that from other outlets was obviously, yeah, this is a terrible answer. This is horrible. This is bad. This is this.
I don't
and,
like. Okay, I don't. Maybe I'm not. I didn't like graduate college or nothing. I'm not college educated, so maybe I'm just not very bright. Like that's possible. I'm not gonna rule that out. I might be lacking here. But I don't really like what's the big deal? I don't get it. I
It's
don't
the usual
I don't get it.
outrage and representation.
Cuz I don't get it. Cuz you posted something else where they were like, I don't know how many times I have to say this, but POC people existed in medieval Europe. And I'm like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your point?
Obviously, there are POC people here, and what that specific thing that I posted you wasn't even medieval, because that was something later on, which people don't really seem to have any big clues about. And this is pretty much pretty much a return of the whole same thing that Kingdom Come Deliverance had a problem
I
with.
was about to say, didn't that game have a similar hubbub?
Yeah, very similar.
About there not being any brown people?
Yeah, very similar. And although it's obviously a bit different, because that one they tried to make it as accurate as possible representation of the medieval area at the time, of that specific area in the Czech Republic, if I remember right, which, yeah, I mean, obviously we can't really prove that there were no black people there or darker skinned people of any sort, but I'd say it was pretty unlikely in that specific area. And even then, obviously it's not, we can't conclusively tell one way or the other, but this one additionally is also, well, it's more of a fantastical setting. And I mean, don't creators have kind of something like their own creativity and their own what they can do, their own freedom there?
Yeah, your creative liberty, believe it or not.
Yeah, kind of.
Like this kind of came up during the Game of Thrones show, where I forget who it was. There was a group of people that were like brown in the show, right? And people were like, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
That's not a thing in the book. And like I
Mm-hmm.
think it was George R.R. or one of the showrunners was like, "Well, we were
Mm-hmm.
doing filming in Morocco.
Yeah.
Those people
Mm-hmm.
are brown, and we needed extras. So guess what?
Uh-huh.
Those people ended up being brown. It's not. It's like he's
Huh.
like it's not feasible to ship a bunch of more people from somewhere else to come there if we
Mm.
have people there who could do it.
Isn't it though? But in any case, yeah, that's also an interesting question because that's essentially an adaptation of another's work, and well, depends on how much how close to the original work you want to get. And we all know how far they strayed with Game of Thrones.
Oh, believe me, I've heard it from my wife
Yeah, so
for
that's probably
years.
the
She,
smallest problem there.
yeah, that's not. Believe me, some brown people
Hmm.
being in the show
Being
is the
there as
last
extras is yeah.
is like 9,275 on the
Down
list
the
of
list.
fucking problems that this
Uh-huh.
show fucking ended up having. Believe me. I mean, like, okay, because my
Best season ever.
because like I can't speak for like everybody, but I don't know, man.
Uh-huh.
I just don't feel myself not buying. I just don't see myself not buying 16 because I don't see any brown fucking people in it. I just
Mm.
don't. This is not a thing for me. I just don't see that being a thing. So I don't really.
Yeah, no.
If you want to talk like, if you want to talk
And
like,
obviously, people are accusing Yoshi P and all of racism and all that shit. Is just get tiring.
yeah,
This whole
no.
thing.
Have you not seen the characters in Final Fantasy 14? Nah, there are
Mm,
brown characters, black
yeah.
characters, white characters. They range the whole fucking gamut. And guess what? Sometimes it's regional. Guess what? You see a
Yeah.
lot of brown people in the desert city, believe it or fucking not.
Yeah, and 14 is also pretty much a complete world,
Yeah.
and 16 isn't.
Yeah, you see.
That's just an isolated part of the
And guess what?
world.
When you go to the Asia part of the fucking
Mm,
Final Fantasy 14, you see a lot less brown people in that particular part. Yeah, guess what? That happens.
mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I don't know, man. I always find these discussions to be
Very,
almost in bad faith.
very US centric. Yeah, that too.
I
For one,
feel
bad faith, and for one, very US centric in terms of their thinking.
because it's
'Cause there's
moments
still
like this.
countries in Europe that are far less diverse
Because
than the US.
it always strikes me as an excuse to just call
Mm-hmm.
someone names whenever you bring this up. It never
Mm-hmm.
comes off, it never seems like a situation where it's just asking a curious question or just wanting to
Yep.
understand more about the process of creating the world.
Mm-hmm.
It always comes off more as I need
It's
or want a reason to potentially go after a company. So
yeah.
I'll ask the
It's a prelude to outrage and demands.
and I'll be honest, man. I don't really I don't get it because to
Mm-hmm.
me I just don't
And yeah,
because
I could imagine the reaction of these people if people demanded more white people in Wakanda forever.
ooh
I
mm.
mean, we've seen that with Black Panther.
Yeah,
So, how about these people just shut the F up?
yeah, right. And also, if I may take a slight bit of a sidestep here, please,
Mhm.
for the love of God, people, those of you who are on this kick, please stop telling people that aren't black not to go see the movie. Please stop that shit. Please,
Right.
will you please stop that
Yeah.
shit? I don't give a fuck if you want to go see the movie. We can have a great time together. Stop telling white people they can't show up to the goddamn movie. That is the dumbest shit I've ever had to listen to. Oh,
Mhm.
this movie isn't for
Yeah.
you, white people. Don't go. Fuck you. Go to the movie.
And it's not even just that. I don't know if you've seen this exact one, if this clip, but it wasn't. It was even kind. It even seemed kind of worse. Like, don't go see the movie on the first weekend. Buy a ticket, give it to a black person, or a person of color, whatever, and go to the theater and stand guard to protect those people.
What
the fuck?
Yeah, what the fuck?
Ugh.
Nah, but I'm like, bro, listen, I got like mildly annoyed when I was seeing people be like, don't go to the movie, white people. I'm like, no, fuck you, go to the movie. Go. The fuck you mean don't go? Why you gonna hurt our numbers like that? Like, why you gonna hurt our film's numbers with that stupidity?
What was it? The Charlie's Angels remake where they had articles like, "This isn't for you, men," and then somewhere a follow-up of, "Why aren't men going to see this movie?"
No, don't do that. Don't hurt this movie by telling white people not to. You just want the movie to fucking fail at that point. Shit, get the fuck out of here, man. I ain't putting up with your.
You're just alienating people.
Yeah,
That's all you're doing.
Now you're just, man. Now you got me mad. Thanks a lot. Hope you're happy. You pissed me off now. I was in a good ass fucking mood too, and then you had to bring this shit up and piss me off with it. Thanks a lot. Hope you're happy. Hope you got what you wanted for Christmas this year.
The popcorn came early.
Yeah, I guess so. So another story you listed was Kerbal Space Program.
Yes.
And apparently the launcher enrages the players. So why don't you explain to us that aren't in the know?
Yeah, well, Kerbal Space Program has been around for a few years now. The sequel is going to come out sometime next year in early access. And now, apparently they thought it would be a good idea to add a new launcher.
Okay, fair enough.
Because it didn't have one before.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, this one apparently is causing problems.
Oh, how so?
For example, with mod compatibility.
Oh, cool.
And since Kerbal Space Program is a game that's very reliant on mods, because that's
Wait a minute.
lot of it.
Wait.
Yes?
How the fuck does a launcher affect mods?
That's a good question.
You're gonna need to rewind back a couple of steps here and help me understand, because I don't understand how a launcher fucks up mods. How does that even happen? The fuck kind of ass back.
I don't know the exact details there, but
what kind of ass backwards programming did you do?
Yeah, that's a good question, because the launcher should be completely separate from the game usually. So it's just launching the game after all, and it should close itself after launching the game. But apparently this one still broke mod support. Going by the article,
Private Division. They reached up to Private Division for comment, and I want to just take note of the last bit of this. Regarding community concerns, we can assure your players that there is no spyware and KSP remains DRM free. Players can also continue to launch KSP directly from where the game is saved locally using the game's executable.
Which shouldn't be necessary. They should just be able to launch the game from Steam and done without the launcher.
Is this launcher part of a bigger store, or does the game itself just have a launcher? Help me out here, because I'm not in the know.
Apparently, the launcher has a store in it.
So they just
going by the screenshot on the TechRaptor article. So it's essentially.
Oh, okay.
Essentially, launcher for general for probably all the Private Division games. It's probably gonna be a launcher for Space Program 2 as well, I'm guessing. And if I'm not mistaken, this isn't the first case of a launcher causing problems, because this is, I think Private Division is owned by 2K.
Oh yeah, no, fuck that.
And they've had problems with launchers relatively recently. With the BioShock Infinite games, for example.
Oh
and
yeah.
Probably others. So yeah, 2K doesn't seem to be learning there. I'm guessing this was a mandate from 2K that they said, yeah, here, Private Division, add a launcher here for stuff.
Because
Yeah, because we want you to.
yeah.
Reasons.
Because I just don't see the if Steam I've always thought the idea of opening a game in Steam and then that game opening a
Mm-hmm.
launcher with the dumbest shit that's ever existed.
Yep.
I've never
Absolutely.
I've never really got it. Okay. let me take that back a second.
Mm-hmm.
If I turn my brain into a
Mm-hmm.
monkey business brain, then it makes sense. But you
Mm-hmm.
see, if I do that, I then have to devolve my brain back about 50 years to get there.
At least. Yeah.
Yeah. If I
Let's go
turn,
more like 50 centuries or something like that.
if I devolve my brain backwards quite a bit, I can kind of
Mm-hmm.
see why. But then my thing is, why bother being on, okay, I was going to say why bother being on Steam, but that's because
Yeah,
it's
we
Steam.
all know why they're there.
But
Yeah.
that's the thing. Why inconvenience me then? If you're gonna be on Steam, don't inconvenience me for buying your fucking game. That just comes off as fucking
Yeah.
retarded. Don't do that.
At least give me an option directly in Steam to just skip the launcher.
Yeah.
Period.
Or just
The only reason where I can see a launcher making sense is if it's a port of a game that doesn't have any options in it, so they had to make a launcher to set those options. But at least it's also obviously not optimal, but sometimes you have to make do with what you can. Like having a port that's a console port, and some older games have that problem.
yeah.
That you have just your regular. It was just a quick port. You had no budget for it, so you couldn't just add the graphics options and all into the game itself. So you have to do those in a separate menu. That could be a reason for a launcher, but even that, I would more reasonably say, give me an option when you say in Steam launch the game, give me an option, either launch the game or go to the options menu.
Trails in the Sky has this
Mhm.
problem, especially the Geo.
Mhm.
If you launch the game from the icon from the shortcut that installs in your start menu, it launches the configuration menu first, and then you can launch the game. But if you launch the game from one of the deep-seated fucking exes within the file structure of the game, it just launches just the game.
Okay.
Which is really annoying because when I'm trying to add this shit into Launchbox, I'm trying to figure out which one of these fucking things is just going to launch the game. Because what happens is, if you don't know, and I launch the game in Launchbox, it brings up the fucking configuration window that doesn't work with the controller. So at that point, I got to dig around for my fucking mouse in order to interact with it to get it off my goddamn screen. So, cool. Love it. Because,
Yeah.
Because, at that point,
Current games really shouldn't have launchers.
There's no... Because then I struggle to even think of, logistically how this is a good experience for anyone, right? Because if you're so intent on having your own launcher, then I say don't sell it somewhere that already has a launcher, right? Because at that point, if you're so tied to having a launcher and you're gonna sell it on a platform that already has a launcher to launch the game, that then has to then launch your launcher so that I can now launch the fucking video game, then don't do it. Cause you're not helping my gameplay experience. My experience is now hindered because I gotta go through 2 different fucking things. Final Fantasy 14 on Steam is the same thing. It does the same shit. If you buy the game through Steam and do all your shit through Steam, you launch the game, it launches the 14 launcher, and then launches the game, which is stupid, right? But to be fair, 14 already had a launcher, and you can buy 14 separately without buying it on Steam. You don't have to buy it through Steam. Steam is just Steam is just another way for people to get the game. So.
But you still just have to say it starts the launcher, and then you have to say start FF14, or does it do it automatically?
I would have to ask someone that plays through Steam. I don't have that
Ah, okay.
information.
Mm-hmm. So
Uh,
you probably have to click an
I'm
additional
hoping you
option.
don't have to then log in through the launcher to
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would
fucking
hope
then.
so.
I am
I
desperately
would probably
hoping
say
that's
you
not the
probably
case.
don't. Yeah, because if you have the subscription through Steam as well, then you probably don't need to log in.
Cause I would,
Mm-hmm.
I would no, I would lose
Yeah.
my shit immediately.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Do you
that's
do
too
the login
much.
in the launcher?
Hmm.
Okay. Hmm.
I
Yeah, I
don't.
would hope that
I
they have a
use
separate.
I use a separate app, a separate application that works as a quick launcher.
Mm-hmm.
So I just click it
Okay.
and it instantly it instantly just logs me in
Mm-hmm.
and puts me right into the game. It doesn't even go through
Okay.
any nonsense.
But if you wouldn't be doing that, do you know if the launcher requires you to log in before starting?
Before like playing the game,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Okay. So you have to log in with the launcher, or does the game have the login?
the launcher. The game does not.
Okay.
Once you
Mm-hmm.
are in the game, you're playing the game. You're
Okay.
not. There's no more
Mm-hmm.
login required.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, no, I'd lose.
Yeah,
No, I'd
I
lose my
would
shit.
hope that the launcher on the Steam version already has login done because it's linked through Steam.
Oh, I'd lose my shit immediately. I'd lose my
I
shit
would hope so.
instantaneously. You know what, CD?
Mm-hmm.
Show's gonna be wrapping up in a bit, so I want to take a sidestep to a different kind of story that I would normally cover on this show. With
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite characters in an RPG that I've talked about last episode, towards the end of the show, Miss Rosalind Stout. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Atelier Riza's producer reiterates how the team was surprised by the love surrounding Riza's now legendary thighs. I
Yeah,
honestly didn't
I
even.
remember when that originally was around.
So, for those of you that don't know, because I'm never not gonna shill for this fucking video game, there was there was some backlash about Ryza between like Ryza 1 and 2 because people
Mm-hmm.
thought she was a bit too good looking. She had thighs. She had some shape to her. You know what I mean? And people were like, "No,
Mm-hmm.
that's not necessary. Tone it down. That's dumb. Tone that shit down." And then Ryza 2 came out. And whew, whew, she's a thick slice. She is a thick slice. So clearly they didn't take the naysayers
They said to
seriously.
those people, "Smack off."
Yeah. It's like, well, I guess this game wasn't made for you then, sir. Play something
Mm-hmm.
else. Interviewer. Incidentally, when Ryza uses a key, she has a glorious display of her thighs. Ah, that was a special touch by a production team, laughs. It's not often that a game character is famous for for her thighs, is it? Everyone often mentions thighs, but no developer at that time or even now is particular about them. No one ever thinks about going, let's show how great our character's thighs are. Really? So you mean that you didn't intend to, but it caught everyone's attention? It was thanks to Tori Domo-san, who was in charge of the character design. I wanted to make Ryza a different kind of protagonist from the already existing Atelier series. Yeah,
Yeah, I think he succeeded.
yeah.
I mean, the sales numbers certainly.
Yeah. No, the sales numbers, plus the fact that we're getting a threequel for
Mm-hmm.
a single character, which is
Yeah.
which I looked it up. This
No
is a
trilogy.
first.
Mm-hmm.
This is a
Mm-hmm.
first. We
Yeah.
usually you get one game and then there'll be a sequel with a similar title, but it's with a different character, with the character from the first game being more in a mentor role, right? That's usually
Mm-hmm.
how that works. You don't usually
Yeah.
follow the same character
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it
progressively.
was always a trilogy essentially, but all had different names.
Yeah. But this is the first time that like
Yeah,
we
this is the
follow.
first time it's a trilogy.
Yeah, we
And this
follow.
also caused one of the other Atelier games to get a sequel, I think.
Yeah, Sophie.
Yeah.
Sophie got a sequel just outright got a sequel, which
Mm-hmm.
good
Which
for
is
you.
interesting because the first one has been a while, I think. Not that long ago, but this probably had a part to play in that, I would guess. Yeah, because the first one was from 2015.
Yeah, and it got a sequel. Like, yeah, so there you go.
And the
I
sequel was just released this year.
I just wanted to bring this up because it was on my feed and I thought it was fucking hilarious. Because there are people
Mm-hmm.
still really fucking salty about Rise's thighs even now. So any opportunity just to have something on my feed that just says "Yo,
Mm-hmm.
Rise's thighs are fucking magnificent" is never an opportunity I am
Yeah,
willing to waste. Thank you very much. I
yeah, the Atelier Thighs trilogy is certainly a thing.
Yeah, I'm never not taking that opportunity to put that in your face. Deal with it,
Mm-hmm.
nerds. I don't care how you feel about female characters in video games. I don't care. She's thick. Live with it.
Uh-huh.
Or just don't.
Honestly, that sounds kind of. Hmm. What is that word that's thrown around
Sexist.
often?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of misogynist if you
Yeah.
complain about that.
Did you see
Isn't it?
did you see the reactions to like Bayonetta 3? That's fun. That was an interesting set of reaction. Wasn't expect
Which ones specifically?
um
Because I haven't really kept up with general reactions to it. I know it reviewed well, but a friend of mine played it and he didn't like the new character at all.
yeah, that too. That
Mm-hmm.
apparently didn't uh
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think I remember now what you mean. The thing that happens at the end, right?
yeah,
With uh-huh,
cuz
yeah.
cuz now
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bayonetta
Yeah.
is with a guy
Yeah.
and people didn't
She likes guys that way.
yeah,
She's not pure lesbian. Oh
which
no.
which
Anyway.
I don't know where you got that idea.
Yeah.
I
Made
mean, maybe if you play the first two, you might come to that because she kind of
mm-hmm.
teases like the only other guy character in the game. She
Mm-hmm.
calls him Cheshire Cat, and she's constantly
Mm-hmm.
messing with him. But like that, I mean, if you look, man, if you want to like have your head canon and shit, that's fine. You do you, baby
Mm-hmm.
boo. But
Yeah.
that,
But it's nothing more than headcanon.
yeah,
It's not canon.
yeah,
And according to my friend, the implication of those two has been not that unclear from the beginning.
yeah. So
Obviously, in the first game, he had more of a clown role, but in the
yeah,
second one, he got more serious from from what I've heard. So
yeah. So I'm
I
not.
don't know. It doesn't seem that out of the blue, but
Yeah.
I mean, people shipping certain things might have different thoughts there.
Oh,
So,
trust me. You want here? I'll make a prediction for you, CD.
mm-hmm.
I'm gonna make a
Yes.
prediction for you. When does Persona 4 Golden come out for all platforms? Cause I bet you the day this launches, you're gonna hear about Kanji. You're gonna hear about my boy
Mm-hmm.
Kanji. You're gonna hear about the other girl in the game.
Yeah, her. Mm-hmm.
I put money on it.
Yeah.
It comes out
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna be
You're right.
right back where we started again.
Yep.
With the
Just
same
like with 5, just like with 5, that happens. It happens with 4. It happens with 5. Yeah, it's coming out January.
Yeah. And as someone
Yeah.
who's
So.
been playing 5 for
Mm-hmm.
about 60
Yeah.
hours now, gonna be
Mm-hmm.
honest, I haven't like the couple things that people pointed out to me as being offensive. I'm like, all right, that wasn't
Mm-hmm.
like that was a bad joke, but offensive.
It's always a stretch in headcanon, yeah, especially with 4. But
Oh
with those two
God!
things. Ugh.
Every time people bring up those two characters from 4
Mm-hmm.
and their interpretation, I'm like, you didn't play the game.
Hmm.
You either didn't play the
Or they
game,
are extremely ignorant.
you either didn't play the game, or you are cherry picking very specific dialogue
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
make your argument, which seems to be what they all do,
Yeah.
right? Because
And the funny thing is that they then accuse others of being media illiterate.
because I'm gonna spoil a little bit here.
Ah.
Kanji's entire thing is that he likes sewing,
Mm-hmm.
and that is not seen as a traditionally manly hobby.
Yep.
So he feels like he has to overcompensate because of that hobby, because of what he
Mm-hmm.
enjoys. And then that's the thing, right? It's not that like people took it because his shadow is portrayed gay, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
portrayed feminine. But that's like the shadows are always an over exaggerated
Yep.
perspective of
Mm-hmm.
what that person is dealing with, right?
Yep.
So it's an over exaggerated version of what they're dealing with. Kanji's not
Mm-hmm.
like, maybe, I don't know, maybe he is, who knows. But his entire story arc was like, I don't have to overcompensate to be who I am. I can
Yep.
do the things I enjoy and still be a man. Like that doesn't
Yep.
me
You don't
sewing
have to adhere to traditional gender roles and stereotypes, essentially.
and
You don't have to behave a certain way, like certain things, to just be a regular guy.
let me just really
Naoto is the other one.
Naoto is a very interesting perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Naoto
Yeah.
blatantly said, because they ask her, "Do you not like being a woman?" And Naoto's like,
Mm-hmm.
"That's not the problem. The problem is my peers don't take me seriously because I am a woman."
Or at least she thinks that.
She doesn't feel like her
I'm not sure.
peers
Don't they, or does she only think that?
as far as like in the force, not like her
Mm-hmm.
peers her own age that
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
hangs out with.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't feel they take her seriously, or the way they
Mm-hmm.
treat her doesn't present that
Mm-hmm.
they take her seriously.
So yeah, they might. Yeah, they might just not take her seriously because of that.
So
That's quite possible.
so she dresses in a way that makes her not seem as womanly, so that the
Mm-hmm.
people that she has to work with will take her
She,
seriously.
she essentially hides her gender
Right.
in that context. Mm-hmm. Which does not make her trans.
Yeah. Like I don't but the thing is, and every time this comes up, they pull like two or three very
Mm-hmm.
specific dialogue screenshots from the
Mm-hmm.
numerous social link events you have with her to justify this stupid ass
Mm-hmm.
argument.
Yeah.
Like, like,
And it, wasn't it also that they ignore one of these specific quotes from the social interactions? Because isn't there one where she explicitly states something?
yeah, probably. I don't remember. It's,
I am a woman.
yeah,
Was,
like,
I think, specifically in there.
yeah. Her motivation for doing what she does is not because she wants to be a man, it's because
Mm-hmm.
her presenting as a woman in what she does as a detective doesn't yield her the same kind of respect as she sees her male peers getting.
Mm-hmm.
That's why. Like you know what? And I'm not really like I don't want to like put people in that weird spot cuz I get it. Like if you want right if you're like if you really want that kind of representation, you know what I mean? Like I get it if you're that hungry for representation, all right? Fine. But again, that is that
Was
is
that specific one?
that is a headcanon situation. That is
Mm-hmm.
not a canon situation. That is not an event in the game that actually happened. If that's how you feel, if you want to say, well, in my head she's trans, you know what? Fine, be you, baby boo. That's all you. But I am
Don't complain
so
if that's not the official thing.
yeah, but I am so beyond tired of seeing this
Mm-hmm.
come up every year. Every year
Every
Persona
time there's a release of a Persona game, essentially.
every time there is a Persona game, this arc
Mm-hmm.
this this dialogue comes up, and it's never productive. It's never helpful, and it always ends up getting cherry picked every time.
Yep.
And it's
It's
dumb.
just the usual outrage and clout chasing and whatever.
Because again, it's one of two things. Either you didn't play the game, or B, you're just straight lying.
Yep. You're intentionally misrepresenting things.
And just for the record, if someone wants to be like, Rezo, aren't you kind of gatekeeping with this one? No, I'm not. I don't give a fuck. Fuck you. You didn't play the fucking video game. You don't get to speak. You don't get to speak on that shit if you don't actually fucking play it. Oh, well, I've watched multiple fucking videos about it.
Well, then pay more attention because you obviously haven't watched it close enough.
You clearly missed something. Or you're
having it play in a 10 by 10 inch picture in the corner while you're doing something else like jerking off does not count.
Like, I'm not like, if you want to have your head cannons, baby boo, do your thing. But please, for the love of God, I would much rather this stop every single time. But like I told you, it's going to come out and we're going to be right back where we fucking started all the fuck over again.
Yep, the usual cloud chasers will be right back at it again.
And
you can count on that.
Oh, I'm counting down.
Yeah, exactly. You can count down to that.
I'm counting down. I would be painfully remiss if we didn't have this all go full circle all the fuck over again like we do every single fucking time a new release comes out.
I've seen it's January 19th, so if we record on the 22nd of January, we will probably have something there.
Oh, I'm waiting.
Either then or the week after.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. They're not gonna
even if it's just a short I told you so segment.
Oh, don't worry. I'm not above pointing and saying I told you so. That's totally within my wheelhouse. Don't you worry, buddy boy. I got no gripes there. I am smug as fuck. I will do it for free. You know what else I'll also do for free, CD? Talk about the multiple streaming platforms our show is available on, ranging from Apple, Google, and Spotify. You can also find our show on YouTube, the Turn-Based Cynics, every single week on Sunday. Lest I have to eat a piece of footwear, which I don't want to do. At this point, I might need the calories, so it might be better than nothing at this point. But you gotta make do, my man. You gotta make do. In any case, everybody, I hope you guys have enjoyed the show and these wonderful talking points we've decided to engage with this week, ranging from Persona 4 to Final Fantasy 5 to Final Fantasy 6. I almost said Final Fantasy 15. Final Fantasy 16, Embracer, some Sims, some Kerbal, some AMD, and some PSVR 5. PSVR 2? 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. In any case,
not yet at the 5.
Don't worry, give it time. We'll get there. In any case, everybody, have yourself a fantastic week. We'll see you all next time.
Yeah.